Today we look at Genesis 39 and 40, and chapter 38 was a kind of a interlude in the story of Joseph. We had talked yesterday about Judah and stuff in his family, but today we are back at Joseph. He's been sold into slavery and taken down to Egypt, and Potiphar, who is an officer of the Pharaoh, he's the captain of the guard. He is an Egyptian. And he is the one that had bought Joseph from the Ishmaelites, the ones that Joseph's brother sold him to these Ishmaelites, these people that were traveling through, and they in turn sold Joseph to Potiphar. And working under this Egyptian person, Joseph became a successful slave. And the Potiphar recognized in Joseph the honesty, the integrity that he had, and that when Joseph did things, things seemed to work out better. He was a good leader. So he was made the overseer of the house and put in charge of much. He was kind of then the head slave. And trouble is on the rise, which we know, because Potiphar's wife sees Joseph, sees this young Hebrew lad who is good looking, and she desires him in this sexual manner, and she tries to seduce him many times, several times that he has come into the house, and she has encouraged him to lie with me, come to bed with me, and he is, as I said, a man of integrity, and he says, how could I do such a thing to my master? And not only would it be wicked against my master, but it would be a sin against God as well. And, and it says, verse 10, and although she spoke to him day after day, he would not consent. However, problems come. One day, he is there, all by himself with her, and she catches a hold of his garment, and again, come to bed with me. And he refuses, and he takes off, but she still has a hold of his garment, which is very identifiable. It's not the robe of many colors, because that went back to his father. But so when Potiphar comes back, she accuses Joseph of, raping her. And see, here's his coat, and for a slave to do such a thing, would have been, most likely, I would think he would have been sentenced to death, but instead he gets put into prison probably because of his good reputation and the good work ethic and everything he had. This Potiphar felt, some regard for Joseph in many ways. But, the accusation is there, and it's, his word against her word. And he finds himself in prison. And while he's in prison, again, it says, verse 21, the Lord was with Joseph and showed him steadfast love and gave him favor in the sight of the jailer, of the chief of the jailers. So again, Joseph finds favor, and it's, God with him, God watching out, God putting in a good word for Joseph, or a good feeling for Joseph, watching out over him. And Joseph does well in jail as well, and he is given some responsibilities there as well. And chapter 40, now we find more problems for two people, the chief baker and the chief wine steward, the cupbearer. And they have both done something that offended their lord, the king. It says the cupbearer of the king of Egypt and his baker. So these are of the king of Egypt, not Potiphar, the one who had been Joseph's owner, but the king of Egypt. And these two find themselves in jail, and in prison, in the same prison where Joseph is. And the prison guard charged Joseph with them, and Joseph took care of them. And they continued, it says, for some time in custody. And then one night they both dreamed. And they have these dreams, and they don't know what to make of them, because the dreams, the cupbearer's dream and the baker's dreams, were in some ways similar, but in some ways different. The cupbearer dreamed that that he would, let's see, the cupbearer, he came and, we have had dreams and there's no one to interpret them. So Joseph asked, and the cupbearer says, in my dreams there was a vine before me, and on the vine there were 3 branches, and it budded out and came and ripened into grapes. And Pharaoh's cup was in my hand. And so he tells Joseph of his dream. And Joseph says, well, in the dream means this, that in 3 days, the king will restore you to your position as his cupbearer. And the baker, who had had a similar dream, except that, he had interpreted his dream that there were 3 cake baskets on his head, and the uppermost there were this and that. And Joseph interprets that dream in a less favorable way, that the king will lift up, in both of them, it's lift up your head. It is to set you free, it is to restore you to a position, lift up your head. Is, to lift up your head, to me, it sounds like they're just going to, chop it off to lift it up, but that's not really what it meant. But anyway, the baker's interpretation is that, he will lift up your head. He will bring you out of prison. However, he will do that, and you will be hanged to death. You aren't going to be set free. The king is still upset with you. And that's the way chapter 40 ends, with that happening. And as with both of them, as Joseph had interpreted their dreams, especially the cupbearer, who was going to be restored to his position, and again then be in the king's presence. Joseph's call to him was, remember me. Remember that I interpreted the dream. Remember me at some point in the future. But they didn't right away. And of course the baker didn't have anything to remember because he was dispatched. He was put to death. But the cupbearer returned to his position as one of the king's trusted people that way. And I think about these, the stories in the Bible, and I shouldn't just say stories, the history of the Bible, and how, I commented, the first few chapters, we went through many generations. And then all of a sudden with Abraham, we had quite a bit about Abraham, and we had quite a bit about Jacob and Esau and their families. And now with Joseph again, there's quite a bit about Joseph in here. And there we're gonna quite a bit more where we'll learn about Joseph as well. But it's God's way of showing us through these scriptures that are written for us of how he leads and how he guides and how he is with the people that trust in him and follow him. And that's, like with Joseph, and he didn't sleep with Potiphar's wife. He didn't go against God. He didn't sin against God. He didn't sin against Potiphar. He didn't sin against her, and he didn't sin against himself. In that he retained his integrity, his honesty. He was true to who he had been raised to be, and God remained true to him. And we'll say, God be with you. That's kind of goodbye. God be with you, and God bless you. And we say those things, and sometimes they're just words that tumble off of our tongues. But the reality is that God does bless us, and God is with us. And he doesn't do everything that we ask him to by any stretch of the imagination, but the will to go on is God breathed life into us, and he created us to be humans and to live and to be his children, and he calls us his children. And I talked on Sunday, we're brothers and sisters in Christ that way, and so the Bible is showing us the way that God has interacted with his people, and just a reminder that he still